Naomi Brooks had learned long ago that invisible was safer. In the marble halls of the Romano mansion, she moved like a shadow, quiet, efficient, unremarkable. Her dark curls were always pulled back in a neat bun, her simple black uniform pressed to perfection, her brown eyes downcast. For 3 years she had cared for little Sophia Romano with a devotion that went beyond duty, loving the 4-year-old girl as if she were her own. But today invisibility was impossible. The mansion buzzed with controlled chaos as wedding planners transformed the estate into something from a fairy tale. White roses cascaded down marble staircases, crystal chandeliers sparkled with fresh polish, and in the center of it all stood Isabel Sinclair, Alessandro Romano's fiancée. Draped in designer silk and dripping with diamonds, her perfect smile never quite reaching her ice-blue eyes. Naomi kept her distance, focusing on Sophia, who clung to her hand with unusual intensity. The little girl had been quiet all morning, her dark eyes, so much like her father's, watching the wedding preparations with something that looked almost like fear. "It's okay, Piccola," Naomi whispered, crouching down to Sophia's level in the hallway outside the grand ballroom. "Everything will be fine." But even as she said the words, Naomi's heart twisted. In 2 days, Alessandro Romano would marry Isabel Sinclair, and everything would change. She had no right to the ache in her chest, no claim to the man who had somehow become more than just her employer. He was the most dangerous man in the city, a mafia boss feared by enemies and allies alike, and she was just the nanny, just a simple maid, as Isabel loved to remind her. "Naomi?" Sophia's small voice was barely a whisper. "Do you have to leave after Daddy gets married?" The question drove a knife through Naomi's heart. "Why would you think that, sweet girl? I heard Miss Isabel talking." Sophia's bottom lip trembled. "She said she doesn't need a nanny. She said I'm going to boarding school." Before Naomi could respond, sharp heels clicked against marble, and Isabel's voice rang out, saccharine and cold. "There you are, Sophia. Come along, darling. The photographer wants pictures with your father and me. We're about to become a real family." The emphasis on real wasn't lost on Naomi. She started to rise, but Isabel's hand shot out, gripping Sophia's wrist just a bit too tightly. "Miss Isabel, you're hurting her," Naomi began. "I'm her soon-to-be stepmother," Isabel cut her off, her smile sharp as glass. "I think I know how to handle a child. Why don't you go make yourself useful? The caterers need someone to fetch more champagne from the cellar. That's more your speed, isn't it? Simple tasks for simple people." The 3 bridesmaids clustered nearby, Isabel's elite circle of wealth and privilege, laughed behind perfectly manicured hands. One of them, a blonde in a Chanel suit, smirked at Naomi. "Honestly, Isabel, I don't know why Alex keeps her around. She's just a maid." "A nanny," Isabel corrected with false sweetness. "Though I suppose the distinction doesn't matter much, does it? She cleans up messes either way." Naomi's hands clenched at her sides, but she kept her face neutral. She'd heard worse, survived worse. But then Sophia whimpered, trying to pull away from Isabel's grip, and something fierce ignited in Naomi's chest. "Let her go," Naomi said quietly. Isabel's eyes widened in mock surprise. "Excuse me? You're hurting her. Let her go." For a moment, the hallway fell silent except for the distant sounds of wedding preparations. Isabel's perfect facade cracked, revealing something ugly beneath. She leaned in close, her voice dropping to a vicious whisper. "Listen carefully, because I'll only say this once. After I marry Alessandro, you're gone. I won't have some pathetic little nobody mooning over my husband, filling his daughter's head with inappropriate ideas. You're just a simple maid, Naomi. Know your place, or I'll make sure you lose even that." The bridesmaids' laughter was cruel. One of them stage whispered, "Can you imagine, as if someone like her could ever..." "Could ever what?" The voice that cut through the hallway was quiet, controlled, and absolutely lethal. Alessandro Romano stood at the end of the corridor, and the temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. He was devastating in a tailored black suit, his dark hair perfectly styled, his sharp features set in an expression that had made grown men beg for mercy. But it was his eyes, those dark, piercing eyes now fixed on his fiancée, that made Isabel's face drain of color. Alessandro, she breathed, her grip on Sophia loosening immediately. Darling, I heard exactly what you were doing. He moved forward with predatory grace, and Naomi's breath caught despite herself. In 3 years she had learned to read his moods, to sense the danger that coiled beneath his civilized surface. Right now, that danger was directed at the woman he was supposed to marry in 48 hours. Sophia, come here. The little girl ran to her father, who scooped her up with one arm while his gaze never left Isabel's face. Are you hurt? Principessa? Sophia shook her head, burying her face in his neck, but her small body trembled. Alessandro's jaw tightened. It was nothing, Isabel said quickly, her voice honey-sweet again. Just a little misunderstanding. You know how sensitive Sophia can be, and Naomi overreacted. Naomi was protecting my daughter. Each word was precise, cutting, from you. Isabel laughed, but it sounded brittle. Don't be ridiculous. I would never hurt Sophia. I love her. Do you? Alessandro's voice was soft, dangerous. Is that why you've been planning to send her to boarding school without discussing it with me? The color that had returned to Isabel's face drained again. That was just an idea. For her education. The best schools. She's 4 years old. Alessandro, please. Isabel reached for him, but he stepped back, Sophia still secure in his arms. You're making a scene over nothing, over her. She shot a venomous glance at Naomi. She's poisoning you against me. Can't you see that? She's just a... Finish that sentence, Alessandro said quietly, and the wedding is off. The hallway went silent. Isabel's mouth opened and closed. Her bridesmaids stood frozen, their earlier smugness evaporated. And Naomi couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what was happening. You don't mean that, Isabel finally whispered. The invitations are sent. The families are coming. The alliances, I don't give a damn about the alliances. Alessandro's voice was cold steel. I care about my daughter, and I will not allow anyone, family, ally, or wife, to treat her with anything less than the love and respect she deserves. He turned to Naomi then, and his expression softened in a way that made her heart stutter. That includes the woman who has shown Sophia more genuine affection in 3 years than her own mother ever did. Naomi's throat tightened. Sophia's mother, Alessandro's late wife, was a subject rarely discussed, a wound still raw despite 3 years of healing. Isabel must have sensed she was losing ground, because her voice turned pleading. Alessandro, darling, I understand you're upset, but think about what you're saying, think about us, about our future together. You can't throw it all away because of one little argument with the help. Get out. The words were barely above a whisper, but they carried the weight of absolute authority. What? Get out of my house. The wedding is cancelled. Marco will escort you and your friends off the property. As if summoned, Alessandro's head of security appeared at the end of the hallway, a mountain of a man who had clearly been listening to every word. His expression was carefully neutral, but Naomi caught the slight quirk of approval at the corner of his mouth. Isabel's perfect composure finally shattered. You can't do this. My family, your family, the contracts are meaningless compared to my daughter's well-being. Alessandro adjusted Sophia in his arms, pressing a kiss to her dark curls, and perhaps meaningless compared to other things I've been too blind to see. His eyes met Naomi's again, and the intensity in that gaze made her knees weak. This is because of her, isn't it? Isabel's voice rose, shrill now, desperate. You're throwing away everything for a nobody? A simple maid? She's nothing, Alessandro. Nothing. She's everything. The words hung in the air like a bomb detonation. Naomi's heart stopped. Isabel's face twisted with rage and humiliation. Sophia lifted her head from her father's shoulder, her small face confused but hopeful. Marco, Alessandro said calmly, please see Miss Sinclair and her guests out, permanently. As Marco moved forward, Isabel's fury erupted. You'll regret this. Your father will do nothing. Alessandro cut her off, his voice dropping to that deadly quiet register, unless he wants to discover exactly what I know about his offshore accounts and his creative interpretation of tax law. I suggest you take this as the generous exit it is. Isabel opened her mouth, then closed it. She was beaten, and she knew it. With a final look of pure hatred directed at Naomi, she turned on her heel and stormed toward the exit, her bridesmaids scrambling after her like baby ducks following a swan. The hallway fell silent except for the distant sounds of confused wedding planners still preparing for an event that would never happen. Alessandro turned to Naomi, and she saw something in his eyes she'd never dared to name before. Something that looked dangerously like the feelings she'd been burying for 3 years. "Naomi," he said softly, "I think we need to talk. Like this story. Click the thumbs up and subscribe for more emotional journeys that will make your heart race." The study felt smaller than usual with Alessandro Romano pacing in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows, the Manhattan skyline glittering behind him like a backdrop to a dream Naomi couldn't believe she was having. Sophia had been settled in her room with a cartoon and her favorite stuffed elephant, leaving Naomi alone with the man who had just blown up his entire wedding for her. For her. No, she told herself firmly. For Sophia. This was about his daughter. Not about the nanny who had been foolish enough to fall in love with a man so far out of her reach he might as well have been a star. "Stop looking at me like that," Alessandro said without turning around. Naomi's breath caught. "Like what?" "Like you're waiting for me to come to my senses and fire you." He turned, and the raw vulnerability in his dark eyes made her chest ache. "Like you're already halfway out the door." "Aren't I?" The words came out smaller than she intended. "Mr. Romano, what you did today, cancelling the wedding, throwing out Miss Sinclair, was long overdue," he interrupted. "And stop calling me Mr. Romano. After 3 years, Naomi, I think we're past that." She folded her hands to keep them from shaking. "Your family won't see it that way. The Sinclairs were an important alliance. The other families can go to hell if they think I'll sacrifice my daughter's happiness for politics." He moved closer, and Naomi forced herself not to step back, not to retreat into the safety of invisibility. "And before you start listing all the practical reasons I made a mistake, let me ask you something. Do you think I made a mistake?" The question hung between them, loaded with meaning she didn't dare unpack. "It's not my place to—" "Naomi." Her name on his lips was almost pleading. "Please, no more hiding behind protocol. No more Mr. Romano and not my place. Just tell me the truth. Did I make a mistake?" She looked up at him, really looked at him, and saw past the dangerous Mafia boss, past the ruthless businessman, to the father who had just chosen his daughter over duty, to the man who had defended her honor without hesitation. "No," she whispered. "Sophia needs someone who loves her, someone who sees her as more than a pawn in a power game." "And what about what I need?" The question caught her off guard. In 3 years, she had never heard Alessandro Romano admit to needing anything. He was self-sufficient, powerful, untouchable. "I don't understand," she managed. He closed the distance between them, and suddenly she could smell his cologne, something expensive and distinctly masculine that made her dizzy. "Then let me be clear. I didn't cancel my wedding just for Sophia." Naomi's heart thundered against her ribs. "Mr. Romano, Alessandro." His hand came up to cup her cheek, and the gentleness of the touch nearly undid her. "Say my name, Naomi." "Alessandro," she breathed, and something in his eyes ignited. 3 years, he said quietly. 3 years of watching you with my daughter, watching you transform this cold mausoleum into a home, watching you bring light into corners I thought would stay dark forever." His thumb traced her cheekbone, and she trembled. 3 years of telling myself it was wrong to want you, that you were off limits, that I was engaged to another woman and you were my employee, and there were 1,000 reasons I couldn't have you. "There still are," Naomi said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Your family, the business, the other families. I'm just—" "If you say just a nanny or just a maid, I swear I'll lose my mind." His other hand came up to frame her face, holding her gently but firmly. "You are not just anything, Naomi Brooks. You're the woman who makes my daughter laugh, the woman who leaves notes in Sophia's lunchbox with drawings that make her smile, the woman who learned Italian just so you could read her bedtime stories in her grandmother's language." Naomi's eyes widened. "How did you—" "I notice everything about you." The confession was raw, honest. The way you hum when you think no one's listening. How you always make sure there's fresh coffee in the morning before I wake up. The way you bite your lip when you're concentrating. How you braided Sophia's hair in the same pattern as the picture of my mother she found in the attic. His voice softened. I notice, Bella. I've always noticed. Tears burned Naomi's eyes. This can't happen. You're Alessandro Romano. I'm nobody. I grew up in a studio apartment in Brooklyn with my grandmother. I take the subway. I buy day-old bread. Your world and mine stopped being separate the moment you walked into this house, he interrupted. The moment Sophia looked up at you with those big eyes and you smiled at her like she was the most precious thing in the world. The moment you stopped being the nanny and became the woman I couldn't stop thinking about. Alessandro, I love you. The words hung in the air between them, impossible and perfect and terrifying. You don't mean that, Naomi whispered, even as her heart soared. It's the emotion of the day, the stress. I mean it. His forehead came to rest against hers, and she felt his breath against her lips. I've meant it for longer than I want to admit, and I understand if you don't feel the same. If this is just a job to you, if I'm just your employer, you're not. The admission escaped before she could stop it. You haven't been for a long time. Alessandro pulled back just enough to see her face, hope and wonder mixing in his expression. Naomi, but it doesn't matter, she continued, forcing the words out past the ache in her throat. Your family will never accept me. The other families, they'll see it as weakness. And Sophia, her voice broke. Sophia deserves better than people whispering about her father's inappropriate relationship with the help. Sophia loves you. Alessandro's voice was firm. More than she ever connected with Isabel. More than any of the women my family has paraded through here hoping I'd remarry. And my family. His jaw tightened. My family will accept what I tell them to accept. I'm not my father, Naomi. I won't sacrifice the people I love for the sake of appearances. Someone died, Naomi blurted out. Alessandro froze. What? Your wife. Sophia's mother. Someone you loved died and you're still grieving, and maybe you're confusing gratitude with don't. The single word was sharp enough to cut. He stepped back, and Naomi immediately mourned the loss of his warmth. Don't presume to know what I felt for Valentina. Naomi flinched at the name. Alessandro never spoke about his late wife. He ran a hand through his dark hair, frustration evident in every line of his body. You want the truth? Fine. My marriage to Valentina was arranged. I respected her. I tried to love her. But what we had was nothing like what I feel when you walk into a room and the whole world gets brighter. Alessandro, Valentina died in a car accident 3 months after Sophia was born, he continued, his voice raw, and I mourned her. I mourned the future we might have had, the family we could have built, but I also mourned the loss of something we never actually had, real love. The kind that makes you crazy, the kind that makes you cancel a wedding in front of half of New York's elite families because you can't stand to see the woman you love being disrespected. Naomi's hands were shaking. This is insane. Probably, he agreed, a ghost of a smile touching his lips. But I built an empire on calculated risks. And this? He stepped close again, his presence overwhelming in the best way. This feels like the safest bet I've ever made. Before Naomi could respond, before she could list all the reasons this was impossible, Alessandro's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression hardened into something dangerous. What is it? Naomi asked. My brother. Alessandro's voice had gone cold. He's heard about the cancelled wedding. He's on his way here with half the family. Naomi's stomach dropped. Alessandro, maybe you should talk to them alone. No. He caught her hand, his grip firm. No more hiding. If we're doing this, if you're willing to try, then we face them together. I don't know if I can... Naomi. He brought her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles that made her breath stutter. You've been brave every day since you walked into this house. Brave enough to love a child who wasn't yours. Brave enough to stand up to Isabel when she threatened Sophia. Be brave with me now. Please. She looked up at him, at the dangerous, powerful man who had just laid his heart at her feet, and felt something shift inside her chest. 3 years of carefully maintained walls crumbled. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay. Don't miss what happens next. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment of this incredible love story." The Romano family arrived like a storm. Expensive cars pulling up to the mansion's circular drive, doors slamming, voices already raised before they even crossed the threshold. Naomi stood slightly behind Alessandro in the grand foyer, Sophia's small hand clutched in hers, trying not to let her fear show. Alessandro's brother Lorenzo entered first. He was shorter than Alessandro but broader, with the same dark eyes and an expression that could have cut glass. Behind him came Alessandro's uncle, Salvatore, and his aunt, Bianca, the family matriarch who had ruled the Romano household long before Alessandro had taken over as boss. "Explain," Lorenzo demanded without preamble. "Explain why I had to hear from Isabel Sinclair's furious father that my brother has lost his mind." "I didn't lose anything," Alessandro replied calmly. "I gained clarity." "Clarity?" Bianca's voice was sharp as she swept into the foyer, her designer dress rustling. "You threw away an alliance that took months to negotiate. The Sinclairs are furious, their allies are circling like sharks, and for what?" Her dark eyes landed on Naomi, and her lip curled. "For this?" Naomi flinched, but Alessandro's hand found the small of her back, a subtle gesture of solidarity that didn't go unnoticed. "Watch your tone, Zia," Alessandro said quietly. "You're speaking about the woman I love." The foyer erupted. "You can't be serious," Lorenzo barked. "She's the nanny, Alessandro, the help. You can't possibly—" "I can." Alessandro's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. "And I am." "Naomi stays. The wedding to Isabel is cancelled permanently. End of discussion." "Like hell it is." Lorenzo moved forward, his face flushed with anger. "Do you have any idea what this makes us look like? The Romanos don't break contracts. We don't humiliate allied families. We don't throw away strategic marriages for love." Alessandro's voice was dangerously soft. "For happiness. For choosing my daughter's well-being over politics." "Your daughter?" Bianca's laugh was bitter. "This is about Sophia? Please, we all know what this is really about." Her gaze raked over Naomi with undisguised contempt. "How long have you been seducing my nephew? How long have you been whispering in his ear, turning him against his own family?" "She hasn't—" Alessandro started, but Naomi cut him off. "I haven't done anything," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. She stepped forward, meeting Bianca's hostile gaze head-on. "I've taken care of Sophia. That's all. That's all I've ever done. And made yourself indispensable," Salvatore spoke for the first time, his voice calculating. "Smart. Make yourself necessary to the child, and eventually the father follows. It's almost admirable, really. Ruthless." "It wasn't like that," Naomi insisted, but she could hear how weak it sounded. "Then what was it like?" Lorenzo demanded. "Explain to me how my brother, the head of this family, a man who understands duty and honor, suddenly decides to destroy years of careful alliance building for a woman he barely knows." "I know her," Alessandro said, his voice hard. "I know she gets up at 5 in the morning to make Sophia's favorite pancakes. I know she donated half her salary last year to a women's shelter in Brooklyn. I know she spent her days off teaching English to immigrant families at the community center. I know she's kind, brave, and more honest than anyone in this room." The silence that followed was heavy with tension. "You investigated her," Bianca said flatly. "Of course you did." "I protect what's mine," Alessandro replied. "And yes, I know everything about Naomi Brooks, including the fact that she had 3 job offers from wealthy families offering twice what I pay, and she turned them all down because she didn't want to leave Sophia." Naomi's breath caught. She hadn't known he knew about those offers. "How touching," Bianca said coldly. "But love doesn't pay debts. Love doesn't keep rival families from seeing this as weakness. Love doesn't maintain respect." "Respect?" Alessandro's laugh was harsh. "You want to talk about respect? Let's talk about how Isabel grabbed my 4-year-old daughter hard enough to leave bruises. How she planned to ship Sophia off to boarding school without my knowledge. How she looked at a woman who has been nothing but loyal and called her nothing. His voice dropped to something lethal. If that's the kind of alliance you want me to honor, then I don't want your version of respect. She was going to send Sophia away? Salvatore's voice had changed, sharpened with interest. For all his calculating nature, he had always had a soft spot for Sophia. To Switzerland, Alessandro confirmed. I found the applications hidden in her desk this morning, already completed, just waiting for my signature after the wedding. Lorenzo's expression flickered, the first sign of doubt. Why would she do that? Because Sophia was inconvenient, Alessandro said flatly. An obstacle to the perfect society marriage Isabel wanted. And before you tell me that's just practical, that many wealthy families send their children to boarding school, ask yourself this. Do you really want me to marry a woman who sees my daughter as an obstacle? Bianca's mouth tightened, but she didn't respond. The other families will still see this as an insult, Salvatore said finally. The Sinclairs have allies. They'll demand recompense. Then they can demand it, Alessandro replied. I have information on Senator Sinclair's financial dealings that would make the SEC very interested. If they want to go to war, I'll bury them. Alessandro, Lorenzo started. I'm done negotiating, Alessandro cut him off. I've spent 35 years putting this family first, marrying who you told me to marry, building alliances I didn't care about, playing politics with families I despise. I'm done. Naomi stays, or I walk away from it all. The threat hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. You wouldn't, Bianca breathed. You wouldn't abandon the family. Try me. Alessandro's voice was absolute steel. I'll liquidate my assets, take Sophia, and disappear. You can explain to the other families why the Romano Empire collapsed, because you couldn't accept the woman I love. Daddy? Sophia's small voice broke the tension. She had been so quiet that Naomi had almost forgotten she was there, but now the little girl tugged on Alessandro's hand. Are we leaving? Are we going away from home? Alessandro crouched down to Sophia's level, his expression softening instantly. No, Principessa. We're not going anywhere, I promise. But Uncle Lorenzo is mad, Sophia whispered, her dark eyes wide. And Aunt Bianca doesn't like Naomi. Aunt Bianca doesn't know Naomi yet, Alessandro said gently. But she will, and she'll love her just like you do. Sophia looked up at Naomi with such trust, such pure love, that Naomi felt tears burn her eyes. Naomi's not going away. Never, Alessandro promised, rising to his feet, but keeping Sophia's hand in his. Naomi is family now, and the Romanos protect family. The emphasis on the last word wasn't lost on anyone in the room. Salvatore was the first to crack. The child loves her, he said quietly. That counts for something. It counts for everything, Alessandro corrected. Bianca looked between Alessandro, Naomi, and Sophia, her expression conflicted. Finally, she sighed. You're really willing to walk away from everything? In a heartbeat, Alessandro confirmed. Then you're either the bravest man I know or the most foolish, Bianca said. She turned to Naomi, her gaze assessing. Can you handle this life? The danger, the scrutiny, the judgment? Because it won't just be us. The entire world will have opinions about the nanny who captured Alessandro Romano's heart. Naomi met her gaze steadily. I don't care what the world thinks. I care about Sophia, and... She took a breath, feeling Alessandro's hand steady on her back. And I care about Alessandro. If he's willing to fight for this, then so am I. Something shifted in Bianca's expression, not quite approval, but perhaps the beginning of respect. You're braver than I thought. She's been brave since the day we met, Alessandro said. Now, are we done here? Because I'd like to have dinner with my family, all of my family, without World War III breaking out in my foyer. Lorenzo ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. You're going to owe me. The cleanup on this, the Sinclairs, the other families, it's going to take work. I know, Alessandro acknowledged, and I'll handle it. But Naomi is non-negotiable. I gathered that, Lorenzo said dryly. He looked at Naomi, his expression unreadable. You break his heart and we'll have problems. If I break his heart, Naomi replied quietly, I'll deserve whatever you do to me. Lorenzo's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Maybe you will fit in after all. Is your heart racing? Mine too. Like and subscribe to see how this impossible love story unfolds. The Romano family left with warnings and grudging acceptance, but Naomi knew the battle was far from over. Over the next week, she felt the weight of judgment from every corner. The household staff whispered when they thought she couldn't hear. Photographers camped outside the mansion gates, hoping for a glimpse of the nanny who stole Alessandro Romano's heart. The tabloids were merciless, digging into every detail of her life. But Alessandro never wavered. He held her hand at family dinners, introduced her to business associates as the woman I'm going to marry, shut down every whispered insult with a look that could freeze blood. It was Sophia who suffered most from the attention. Naomi discovered it by accident, arriving early to pick Sophia up from her exclusive preschool and finding the little girl crying in the bathroom. Two other girls stood nearby, daughters of wealthy families, their expressions showing a cruelty that shouldn't exist in 4-year-olds. What happened? Naomi demanded, kneeling beside Sophia. They said you're not a real princess, Sophia sobbed. They said their mummy said Daddy made a mistake. They said you're just pretending to be family. White-hot rage flooded through Naomi. She stood, fixing the two girls with a look that made them step back. Sophia's father loves her very much, and what anyone else's mother thinks doesn't matter. Now apologize. The girls mumbled apologies and fled, but as Naomi held Sophia close, she felt the first real crack in her resolve. Was Alessandro's love worth putting Sophia through this, worth the child being ostracized by her peers because of Naomi's relationship with her father? That night, after putting Sophia to bed, Naomi found Alessandro in his study, going over security reports. He looked up when she entered, his expression softening. Bella, you look exhausted. Come here. But Naomi stayed near the door. We need to talk. Something in her tone made him straighten. What's wrong? Sophia was bullied today at school because of us. Alessandro's expression went thunderous. Who? It doesn't matter who, Naomi said tiredly. It matters that it happened, that it will keep happening. Alessandro, I love you. God help me, I do, but I can't let Sophia suffer because... Don't! He was around the desk in seconds, pulling her into his arms. Don't you dare finish that sentence. Don't you dare think about leaving. I'm not leaving, Naomi said against his chest. I'm trying to protect her. So am I. Alessandro pulled back enough to cup her face, his dark eyes intense. Which is why I'm pulling her from that school. Marco has already vetted 3 better options with more security and better screening of families. And before you argue, know that I was planning to do this anyway. That school has been a problem for months. You can't rearrange her entire life because of me. I can rearrange the entire world because of you, Alessandro said fiercely. Both of you. Don't you understand yet, Naomi? You and Sophia are my world now. Everything else is just background noise. Pretty loud background noise, Naomi said, but she leaned into his touch. Then let me turn down the volume. He pressed a kiss to her forehead, then her cheek, then, finally, her lips. It was soft, gentle, and devastating in its tenderness. When he pulled back, his eyes were dark with promise. Marry me. Naomi's breath caught. What? Marry me, Alessandro repeated. Not someday. Not eventually. Soon. Next month. Let me make this official. Let me give you and Sophia my name and every protection that comes with it. Alessandro. I know it's fast, he continued, his voice urgent now. I know we should probably wait, do this properly. But I don't want to wait. I've wasted too much time already pretending I didn't love you. Pretending I could marry someone else when you were the only woman I've ever actually wanted. Naomi's heart thundered against her ribs. Your family will adjust. Bianca is already coming around. She spent an hour with Sophia yesterday, and my daughter told her all about how you taught her to braid hair and make cookies. Lorenzo is handling the Sinclair situation, the other families. He shrugged. They'll fall in line or face the consequences. I'm Alessandro Romano, Naomi. When I make a decision, people accept it. I'm scared, Naomi admitted. Scared that I'm not enough, that I'll never fit into your world, that one day you'll realize that you're the best thing that ever happened to me, Alessandro interrupted. I already know that, Bella. I've known it for 3 years. The only question is whether you trust me enough to take this leap. Naomi looked up at him, at the dangerous, powerful, impossibly gentle man who had fought for her, defended her, loved her despite every obstacle, and felt the last of her resistance crumble. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. Alessandro's expression transformed, pure joy breaking through the controlled facade he showed the world. He kissed her again, deeper this time, pouring years of restrained desire into the contact. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, he rested his forehead against hers. I'm going to make you so happy, he promised. You and Sophia. I swear it. You already do, Naomi replied honestly. Every single day. But their happiness was short-lived. The next morning, Marco burst into the breakfast room with an expression that made Alessandro instantly tense. Boss, we have a problem. What kind of problem? Alessandro's hand found Sophia's shoulder protectively. The Sinclair family. They're not accepting the broken engagement quietly. Senator Sinclair has called a meeting with the 5 families. They're demanding compensation. Let them demand, Alessandro said coldly. Boss. Marco's expression was grave. They're not just demanding money. They're demanding blood. The temperature in the room dropped. Naomi felt ice flood her veins as Alessandro stood, his entire demeanor shifting from loving father to deadly predator in an instant. Explain, he ordered. Senator Sinclair is calling for a formal challenge. Old world rules. He's claiming you dishonored his family and his daughter. He wants... Marco glanced at Naomi and Sophia, clearly uncomfortable. Out with it, Alessandro snapped. He wants you to give up the woman or face consequences from all 5 families. Silence. Then Alessandro laughed, a sound so cold and dangerous that even Marco flinched. Let me be crystal clear, Alessandro said, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. Senator Sinclair can demand whatever he wants. The answer is no. Naomi stays. If the 5 families want war, they can have it. But they should know that I have enough information on each of their operations to bring them all down if they try to touch what's mine. Alessandro, Naomi started, her voice shaking. Maybe you should listen. No. He turned to her, and despite the danger crackling around him, his expression softened. I told you I would protect you. I meant it. The Sinclairs, the 5 families, the entire underworld, none of them are taking you from me. But Sophia is perfectly safe, Alessandro assured her. I'm tripling security. No one gets near either of you without going through me first. Over the next week, the Romano mansion became a fortress. Guards patrolled every entrance. Sophia's new school had been vetted and secured, and Alessandro moved through his business dealings like a man possessed, systematically dismantling any threat before it could materialize. But Naomi felt the strain, felt the weight of being loved by a man whose enemies would use her as a weapon against him. It all came to a head one night, when she found Alessandro in his study at 2 a.m., going over security reports with bloodshot eyes. Come to bed, she said softly from the doorway. He looked up and the exhaustion in his face broke her heart. Soon. I just need to... Alessandro, she crossed to him, taking the papers from his hands. You can't protect us from everything. Watch me, he said, but there was a desperate edge to his voice. I'm not leaving you, Naomi said firmly, cupping his face. But I need you to hear this. I need you to understand that I'm not afraid of your world anymore. I'm not afraid of the danger or the judgment or the enemies. The only thing I'm afraid of is losing you because you're so busy protecting me that you forget to live. Something in Alessandro's expression cracked. I can't lose you, he said roughly. You and Sophia, you're everything. If something happened, nothing will happen, Naomi interrupted. Because we're stronger together, all 3 of us. So stop trying to fight this battle alone and let me help you. How? Alessandro's laugh was bitter. You're not trained in combat? Connected to the underworld? Powerful? Naomi smiled slightly. No, but I love you. And sometimes that's the strongest weapon of all. Alessandro stared at her for a long moment. Then he pulled her into his lap, burying his face in her neck. You undo me, Bella, completely. Good, Naomi whispered, running her fingers through his hair, because you've undone me since the day we met. The danger is far from over. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss what happens next. The meeting of the 5 families was held in neutral territory, a historic restaurant that had been closed to the public for the evening, its doors guarded by armed men from each faction. Alessandro had insisted Naomi stay at the mansion, but she had refused. If this is about me, she'd argued, then I have a right to be there. He hadn't been happy, but he'd conceded, on the condition that she sat in a secure room with video access to the meeting. Marco had set up a command center in the restaurant's private office, monitoring feeds from multiple angles. Now, watching Alessandro enter the main dining room where the heads of the 5 families waited, Naomi felt her stomach churn with anxiety. Senator Sinclair sat at the head of the table, a silver-haired man with cold eyes and a smile that didn't reach them. Alessandro, so glad you could join us. Let's skip the pleasantries, Alessandro said, taking his seat with casual confidence that belied the danger in the room. You called this meeting, state your terms. Very well. Sinclair leaned forward. You dishonored my family by cancelling your engagement to my daughter. In the old world, such an insult would be paid in blood. But I'm a reasonable man, so I'm offering you a choice. How generous, Alessandro said dryly. Give up the nanny, Sinclair continued. Publicly apologize to my family and marry Isabel as originally planned, or face sanctions from all 5 families. Your businesses will be shut out. Your associates will abandon you. Your protection will evaporate. You'll be alone, Alessandro, and we both know what happens to men in our world who stand alone. The other family heads murmured agreement. Only Lorenzo, representing the Romano interests, remained silent, his expression carefully neutral. I see, Alessandro said calmly. And this is the will of all 5 families? Not just your wounded pride? It's about respect, Ustan, another family head spoke up, Carmine Marchetti, an old-school boss with traditional values. About honor. You can't just throw away centuries of tradition because you fell for the help. The help, Alessandro repeated, his voice going soft and dangerous. Is that what you think Naomi is? What else would you call her? Sinclair scoffed. She's a nobody. A nanny from Brooklyn who got lucky. She has no family, no connections, no value to any of us. In the command center, Naomi flinched. Marco's hand came down on her shoulder, a silent gesture of support. You're wrong, Alessandro said, and something in his tone made everyone in the room go still. Naomi Brooks is a graduate of Columbia University, full scholarship. She speaks 4 languages fluently. She's volunteered at women's shelters for the past 7 years. She's raised my daughter with more love and dedication than any blood relation has shown, and his voice dropped to something lethal. She's the woman I love, which makes her more valuable than every person in this room combined. Love. Sinclair spat the word like it was poison. Love doesn't matter in our world, Alessandro, you know that. Power matters, alliances matter, respect matters. Then let me show you what I think of your respect. Alessandro reached into his jacket, and immediately a dozen hands went to concealed weapons. But he merely pulled out a folder, sliding it across the table to Sinclair. Those are copies. The originals are with my lawyers, set to be released to federal prosecutors if anything happens to me, Naomi, or Sophia. Sinclair opened the folder, and his face went white. What is this? He demanded. Evidence, Alessandro said calmly, of your offshore accounts, your tax evasion, your dealings with the Cartagena cartel, your involvement in that unfortunate incident with the missing federal witness last year. He smiled without warmth. Should I continue? You're bluffing, Sinclair blustered, but his hands shook. Am I? Alessandro turned to Carmine Marchetti. Would you like to know what I have on you? The illegal arms shipments, the bribes to city officials? Or should we discuss the very interesting relationship between your accountant and the IRS agent who's supposed to be investigating you? Marchetti's face turned red. You wouldn't dare. I would, Alessandro cut him off. I have information on every single one of you. Every dirty secret, every illegal dealing, every skeleton in every closet. And if you think you can threaten me, threaten my family, threaten the woman I love, then you're going to discover exactly how far I'm willing to go. The room fell silent. This is blackmail, Sinclair said finally. This is insurance, Alessandro corrected. I don't want war. I don't want to destroy any of you. I just want to be left alone to live my life with the woman I love. But if you force my hand, I will burn every single one of you to the ground. The old families will never accept this, Marchetti said, but his voice lacked conviction. Then, the old families can adapt or die, Alessandro replied. The world is changing. The old rules about arranged marriages and alliances, they're dead. If you want to survive in the new world, you need to evolve. By marrying nannies, Sinclair scoffed. By marrying for love, Alessandro shot back. By building families based on respect and genuine connection instead of political maneuvering. By being better than our fathers were. He stood, his presence commanding the room. I'm giving you all one chance. Walk away now, accept that Naomi is part of my family, and we can all continue doing business as usual. Or push this, and you'll discover that I'm not my father. I won't play by the old rules just because you're too scared to break them. And if we refuse, Sinclair demanded, then in 48 hours, everything in those folders, and trust me, there's much more than what you saw, goes to federal prosecutors, the FBI, and every major news outlet in the country. Alessandro's smile was cold. Your choice. Gentlemen, peace or mutually assured destruction. In the command center, Naomi held her breath as the family heads exchanged glances. The tension in the main dining room was thick enough to cut. Finally, it was Lorenzo who broke the silence. I vote for peace. You would, Sinclair snarled. He's your brother. He's also right, Lorenzo replied calmly. The old ways are dying. We either adapt or get left behind. And personally, I'd rather not spend the rest of my life in federal prison, because we couldn't handle the fact that my brother fell in love with a good woman. Carmine? Alessandro prompted. Marchetti looked at the folder, then at Alessandro, his expression conflicted. Finally, he sighed. Fine. Peace. But don't expect me to be happy about it. I'll take grudging acceptance, Alessandro said. He turned to Sinclair. And you? Sinclair's face was twisted with rage, but he was beaten and he knew it. You'll pay for this humiliation, Romano. Possibly, Alessandro agreed, but not today. So, do we have peace? A long, tense moment passed. Then Sinclair nodded once, sharp and angry. Peace. But don't expect my family to forget this. I don't expect anything from your family, Alessandro replied, except to be left alone. As the meeting broke up, as the family heads filed out with varying degrees of anger and resignation, Naomi felt tears slip down her cheeks. Alessandro had fought for her, had risked everything for her, had stood against the combined power of the 5 families and won. When he finally entered the command center, she threw herself into his arms. You're insane, she sobbed against his chest, completely insane. Probably, he agreed, holding her tight, but I told you I'd protect you. I always keep my promises, Bella. Can you believe what just happened? Like and subscribe if you're as emotional as I am right now. 3 months later, Naomi stood in front of a mirror in the Romano mansion's master bedroom, hardly recognizing the woman looking back at her. The wedding dress was simple but elegant, ivory silk that hugged her curves, with delicate lace sleeves and a train that whispered across the marble floor. Her natural curls had been styled into soft waves, a diamond and pearl tiara nestled among them. You look like a princess, Sophia breathed from the doorway. She was dressed in a miniature version of Naomi's gown, her dark curls bouncing as she ran forward to hug Naomi's legs. We both do, Naomi said, crouching down to kiss Sophia's forehead. Are you ready to be my flower girl? I'm ready to be your daughter, Sophia said seriously. Daddy said, after you get married, we're going to be a real family, with papers and everything. Naomi's throat tightened. Alessandro had already started adoption proceedings, determined to make their family official in every possible way. The realest family, Naomi promised. A knock on the door announced Bianca's arrival. Alessandro's aunt had softened considerably over the past months, won over by Naomi's genuine care for Sofia and her refusal to be intimidated by the Romano family's power. Now she smiled, a real smile, warm and approving. "The guests are seated," Bianca said, "and Alessandro looks like he's about to storm up here if you make him wait any longer." Naomi laughed, her nerves settling. "Let's not keep him waiting, then." The ceremony was held in the mansion's rose garden, transformed into something magical, with thousands of white flowers and twinkling lights. As Naomi walked down the aisle, Sofia skipping ahead with the flower basket, she saw the faces of everyone who had come to celebrate with them. Lorenzo grudgingly approving, Marco standing as Alessandro's best man with actual tears in his eyes, members of the household staff who had become like family, and at the end of the aisle, looking devastatingly handsome in a tailored black suit, Alessandro Romano with an expression of such pure love that it took her breath away. When she reached him, he took her hands and she saw that his were trembling slightly. "Nervous?" she whispered. "Terrified," he admitted. "Terrified I'll wake up and this will all be a dream." "It's not a dream," Naomi assured him. "It's real, we're real." The ceremony was short, but perfect. When the priest finally said, "You may kiss your bride," Alessandro didn't hesitate. He pulled Naomi into his arms and kissed her with a passion that made several guests clear their throats and others cheer. When they finally broke apart, breathless and laughing, Sofia tugged on Alessandro's jacket. "Does this mean Naomi is my mommy now?" she asked hopefully. Alessandro and Naomi exchanged glances, then both crouched down to Sofia's level. "If you want me to be," Naomi said gently, "I know I can never replace your first mommy, but I love you so much, Sofia, and I'd be honored to be your mommy too." Sofia's response was to throw her arms around both of them, and suddenly they were a tangle of limbs and laughter and tears, the guests forgotten as they held each other close. "My girls," Alessandro murmured, and Naomi heard the wonder in his voice. "My family." Naomi sat in the mansion's renovated library, now also serving as a community space where she taught English classes to immigrant families twice a week. Alessandro had not only supported the project, but had funded it, turning what could have been a trophy wife existence into something meaningful. Sofia was at her new school, a progressive academy that Alessandro had thoroughly vetted, making friends and thriving in an environment that celebrated her for who she was, not who her father was. And Alessandro. Alessandro was in his study, probably on yet another conference call, but he'd be out soon. They had dinner reservations, a weekly tradition where they got dressed up and pretended they were still dating, keeping the romance alive amidst the chaos of their blended family. Her phone buzzed with a text from him. "Miss you. Finish your class and come find me. I have a surprise." Naomi smiled, excusing herself from her students and making her way to Alessandro's study. She found him standing by the window, looking out at the city skyline with Sofia's latest crayon drawing in his hand, a picture of the three of them labeled "My Family" in wobbly letters. "What's the surprise?" Naomi asked, sliding her arms around his waist from behind. Alessandro turned, pulling her close. "I've been thinking." "Dangerous?" she teased. "About expanding our family," he continued, and Naomi's breath caught. "Not right away," he added quickly, "but maybe. Someday soon. Sofia keeps asking for a baby brother or sister." Naomi looked up at him, at the man who had fought the world for her, who had chosen love over duty, who made her feel cherished every single day, and felt her heart overflow. "Someday soon sounds perfect," she whispered. Alessandro kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. Outside the window, the city lights twinkled like stars, and somewhere in the mansion, Sofia sang off-key while doing her homework. It wasn't the life Naomi had imagined when she first took the job as a nanny 3 years ago. It was infinitely better, because she had learned that love, real, fierce, unconditional love, could break through any barrier, could transform a dangerous mafia boss into a devoted husband, could turn a simple nanny into a queen. And as Alessandro held her close, whispering promises of their future in Italian, Naomi knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be. Home. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more heartwarming love stories. Share this with someone who believes in the power of true love.